And as always, it's pleasure to be in person and then talking about some of our strategy and experiences, what we have. Just on a lighter note, picking up from what Ashley and Amanda were mentioning, even while you are standing upside down in a yoga position, if I just go back to what Donna mentioned in the beginning about various health parameters which we are able to measure, and hence the proactive measures which could be taken. That's where is the use case. I see it even in a yoga position also as such, actually. So just moving on, what is it we see in from a scaling the whole hyper-connective world? What is the trends which we are seeing? And then how does LoRaWAN in the context fits into the broader IoT markets, actually? Broadly, I would see that the key trends itself being primarily driven by, if I had to take geographically, it's Asia Pacific, Western Europe, and North America. It's no brainer, but still, these are the three big regions which are driving the adoption of the whole IoT itself as such. Then LoRaWAN and our 5G. In fact, we should look at this as a complex or the complementing access technologies, which are to an extent, depending on the use case, what we are seeing is becoming one of the key drivers for the market trends being seeing what it is, huge markets, what we are seeing. Then the investments, what we are seeing either from our hyperscalers or so on and so forth, especially around the technologies, and in specific, LoRaWAN, 5G, so on and so forth as such, actually. And as we heard in the morning when Microsoft were talking, especially the AI and ML, which is getting embedded as a part of the broader LoRaWAN's adoption itself, is becoming the trend as we look at it. And then also, you should look at this, what are all the industries which are primarily driving this, if I have to broadly classify the whole IoT industry itself. Smart cities, smart buildings, smart utilities are becoming one of the key trend sets. Then automotive, where that connected car ecosystem is becoming one of the key areas where that IoT adoption itself is growing. And broadly, if I have to take a tracking, whether it is a human, whether it is machine, whether it is manufacturing setup, or wherever it is, or any device for that matter, tracking is seen as one of the key growth areas. And of course, we can't miss utilities as such. So how is from a purely looking at from a business context, we heard lots of uses what we had seen earlier, and then also the market trends which we are seeing. Broadly, if you have to look at it, how is the revenue model itself is looking at? While connectivity is the one which is key. When I say connectivity, I'm putting this across various technologies, be it LoRaWAN, 5G, so on and so forth. It is about less than 10%, while the applications is becoming about 60+% kind of thing. It fits in quite well. There has to be a marriage of starting from a cloud application riding on it, the network which is talking to it, and the devices which are there, and the sensors with whom we have been looking at it. When you stitch all of these together, that's where is the holistic IoT experience being brought in. So what does Tata Communications in IoT itself is the strategy which has been thought over? If I had to broadly classify, it needs to be industry agnostic. I call it as a man, machine, and material, which is 3 M's, if you have to put it. If you put a method, basically the process of how do you bring these 3 M's, and then the market, if you are putting, it gets into 5 M's. So across these 3 M's, even the IoT adoption itself could be seen as broadly cellular or non-cellular, or the public network or the private networks, which is where LoRaWAN comes into the key component in this, which is where Tata Communications started investing on this whole LoRaWAN as a technology. And again, this all, we built it at the back of being cloud native, agnostic, the visibility being provided through an API layer. And the insights, data insights, which is linked between the access technology, in this case it is LoRaWAN technology, into that applications which has been riding, and the platform which is managing, and the applications which those industry use cases itself would map in. So when you look at this holistic integration, both vertically as well as horizontally, that's where that technologies like LoRaWAN becomes a compelling reason why this whole IoT adoption itself is expected to be growing. And again, it's no-brainer. What are all the markets which we are seeing? It could be aviation, it can be your manufacturing setup, it can be automotive in specific, it can be utilities. And when you look at these broad use cases and bring it back into the technology what is being put in place, the technology what we have put in LoRaWAN directly fits into the use cases what we have been able to achieve as such actually. So this leads me to how did we, as Tata Communication, adopt this LoRaWAN conceptually, then work with the technology, work with those technology developers and the network, which is where somewhere about 5 years back we started. It did take quite a while for us to not just that deploying of this capability or the infrastructure or the network, but building an ecosystem across the devices, your applications, and the platforms, ease of working or ease of accessing those capabilities from a technology perspective did take time. Somewhere in 2017, our most of the focus revolved around how do I scale this network. We deployed about 40 to 50 plus cities across India. Initially, it was more limited for Indian geography. And immediately after that, it started off building the use cases or especially where is it we are productizing the various technologies, what has been deployed. Productizing around tracking, productizing around utilities management, productizing around safety. When you look at these 3 or 4 specific drivers that came into it, that's where in 2019 we started scaling up the whole product or the solutions which we could bring in, which is where today, if I have to take it, approximately about 250 to 300,000 plus employees are being tracked in a manufacturing setup, which has got implications of safety, which has got implications of trackability, which has got implications of human resource management, so on and so forth. And then also close to about 200,000 smart utilities, which basically the streetlights are being managed across both in India as well as recently we gotten into international. That's where, as we speak now, we have embarked on an end-to-end solution of complete the connectivity across man, machine, and material, which is what is the graduation where my initial deployment of a network or a LoRa or your infrastructure moving into your productization, then into your specific solutions, and then into your holistic ability to manage the whole end-to-end requirement from a use case driven as such. So what does it mean? This basically means the end-to-end solution is supposed to be looking at, one, it is a cloud-based network. Number 2, it is a scalable capability, the platform which has been given, and the hardware platform itself that has been deployed. It is access agnostic, which basically means that starting from sensor to cloud to the network to, which is again at the back of the LoRaWAN capability what we have put in, then the various use cases and the solutions that has been deployed, this is what I call it as an end-to-end management of man, machine, and material, which leads me, broadly, what are all the conceptually, what is it the specific end-to-end management it means? One is around enterprise solutions, which is your connected workers, your in-plant logistics, manufacturing productivity, or the environmental monitoring, which is what is broadly we can look at as an enterprise solution. On the other side is the one which is my smart city solutions, which is again streetlight tracking, gas meter, hazardous gas management, water management, and smart buildings, so on and so forth. When you combine these two, somewhere it fits into it, our theme of people, planet, and community, which is social, which is economical, where you are also able to manage the community. Across this theme of enterprise solutions plus my smart utilities solutions, which I'm able to bring in, I'm able to encompass a people, planet, and community thought process, which is where LoRaWAN is playing a fantastic base on which the whole use cases itself could be developed. Just to go a little bit deeper into what that enterprise solution itself means. There are key value drivers which we identified. At the end of the day, every one of those solutions or every one of those applications which that consumer need to use it, it has to have a value which those enterprises or the manufacturings or the industries need to reap in. One was around increase in productivity of a manufacturing setup, and also reduction of the cost which is invested on safety of an individual who has been there in that manufacturing setup. And this is where that connected worker construct came into that picture, which is where it gave, as of now, with about 200,000+ employees being managed, both in manufacturing setup as well as in and out of it, they are able to see in an initial stages of about close to about 15%+ increase in their the whole productivity itself, what they have been able to look at it. Then reduce the cost of the manufacturing, reduce the cost of the production, what they have been doing it, which is where my broader connected operation construct came into it, which is where in-plant logistics was one solution which we brought in. Your industrial IoT solution for the manufacturing floor intelligence was one of the key aspects which we brought in, which is where an industry could see a straight jump of in less than 6 months of this adoption of this solution. They could see more than 10% increase in their productivity itself as such, which is a big thing for an industrial setup where that huge number of people have been employed, and the big manufacturing and in a hazardous environment that's being looked at it. And finally, reduce the utility costs. It's a no-brainer. The kind of utilities, what they have been using across water, gas, lighting, and so on and so forth, which is where they could see about 8 to 10% increase in their complete OpEx, what they used to spend on. So when you look at these enterprise solutions and the value drivers which are being looked at, and the kind of solutions what we have been developed, there is a direct correlation to what an industry achieves versus what a technology like LoRaWAN could be utilized for. This leads me to one specific solution. This is an actual product that we have that has been deployed in one of the very, very large manufacturing setup in India. This we call it as a safe pass or the safety watches, which again, what are the salient features? If I have to just read out one or two things here, one is a geofencing. Number two is your location information. One of the specific use case which outside of this manufacturing setup which we utilized, especially all of us went through the hell of pandemic, which is where we could utilize this use case for a social distancing tracking. This is one of the key outcomes that came out. And what is it? We saw it when this industry or in an environment where this whole connected worker solutions have been deployed. As you can easily look at it, we could clearly see that 40+ near fatal incidents that could be avoided because we predicted well in advance, and hence this was avoided. And otherwise, it would have been a much, much bigger problem for that particular industry. Close to about 20% reduction in unauthorized people entry into a specific geofencing location. This was one of the security concerns which they could avoid it. Clear benefit which they could see that. And especially the more and more what we see it is that data transfer and the data capability which happens between a LoRa technology network into that platform, into that application what has been seeing, we could see an 100% reliability in terms of that data transfer, what we could see that. So this leads me to my next topic, which is smart city solutions, which is a plug-and-play solution, which, again, smart city management, light management, hazardous gas management, your transformer monitoring, and your all the complete energy, the ecosystem, what we could see that in every one of them, the specific solution was brought into the various utility sectors with whom we spoke on. Again here, as you would see, this is a live example which we could see, more than about 20% increase in terms of their energy savings, what they used to do it. And when you look at your manual fault detection itself, this we could see this, the whole detection capability itself went beyond 80% as against what we would have done it manually. So when you look at these specific benefits, what we have been able to see that, technology will become a key component in my ability to get the specific productivity what that industry could be looking at. So what is this smart city solutions what we have done? What is the construct of this whole smart city solution? One, it is a industrial controller what we were able to deploy. It is a homegrown controller along with some of the partners ecosystem what we have been able to deploy. Then it is a very, very scalable model. As I said earlier, close to about 150,000, and in fact, the numbers are going up. 1,000 plus streetlights are being managed with this scalable controller, what we have been able to make it. This is a cloud-based platform that's managing the whole ecosystem. And again, initially, as I said, this was more India-focused solution. It has gotten into international locations in the Middle East, which is where this whole, my ability to scale, my ability to be accurate, my ability to do that, spread it across, and the geographical spread, what we are able to give. This is what is my streetlight solution, what has been deployed. This basically means that what is the benefit which we saw as a part of this streetlight solution? One, that data success rate that happens between a LoRaWAN technology or the beacons what has been deployed into the user community, it has gone up beyond 98.5%. And the burn ratio, what otherwise which would have been seen, it is more than 98%. Basically, they could detect the one which are healthy versus not so healthy streetlights, and hence the ratio itself gone beyond 98% as such. And then the fault detection itself is beyond 95%. These are the parameters which is on ground, which is being experienced by the customers to whom we have deployed this. So if I had to sum up the whole construct of how we have built this at the back of the LoRaWAN technology as the access mechanism what we use, and the various platforms which has been deployed using those things. Broadly, I can classify this as one, as a hardware platform, number two, our application platform, and the analytics which has been built around it, which is where the complete gamut of this taking a access LoRaWAN technology leading into that application, and hence how they are able to get those insights of it, which basically means that IoT hardware platform is in a position to connect any device, any of the devices, to enable the complete IoT's analytics onto that as such actually. That's one of the key benefits. Again, it has been homegrown, which is where this ubiquitous capable IoT hardware platform has been deployed. Again, any of the devices could be designed, defined, certified as a part of this platform. Then there is an application which basically means that the whole devices has been taken back into the cloud, and then the analytics has been run on that. Then industry-specific applications are riding on it. So basically, when you look at this whole graduation from we can call it as a technology or the network infrastructure, moving into that application and the use cases what has been put in, and specific vertical use cases, like it could be a manufacturing setup, it could be a smart city setup, it could be our healthcare setup, so on and so forth. When you look at these various industrial applications that rides on this infrastructure, is the capability that has been built. And finally, before I close this, I just wanted to end this whole this one. At the end of this, the LoRaWAN-based technology and the various platforms which we have been able to deploy, both at a hardware level and at a software level and at a specific application level, it focuses on people, planet, and community. That's what Tata Communications' focus has been, keeping a broader aspect of sustainability at the theme of it. This digital journey definitely is in that journey, and hence we are 100% committed, both in terms of a social as well as in terms of the business aspect, which our customers would be in a position to get out of it, actually. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Enjoy the conference.